Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Import Export Platform, Facebook Live from 3 Best Trade Academy. And my name is Dele Ayemibo. We'll continue our conversation on AFCFTA, the what, the why, and how to export to Nigeria. We've exhausted the different options I have for indirect export. We're still on the export mode, and we'll spend most of the time on export mode. Like I said, I assume most of the company I'm speaking to or that will be seeing this in future are going to be likely SMEs. And for small businesses, export mode is a lot better, a lot safer, cost effective than the partnership and the hierarchical investment mode. And that's why I've spent a lot of time discussing this entry mode. And today I'm on episode 60. Let's hope that we'll probably be able to get this up to episode 100. All right, so we discussed yesterday, I started discussing yesterday the direct export, and I discussed inbuilt export unit or export department. Inbuilt export unit or export department. This is assuming that a business is going into export, and because it's a small potential for export, or there's small market for export, or there is the marketing department is not so engaged, and they need to engage some of the redundant staff to begin to consider for them to begin to be the one to do export, not because the organization is psychologically ready to really do export big time. And sometimes it's also a strategy to start small and grow big. It's also a strategy to start small and grow big. So, but today I'll move on to the next one, and that will be the separate export department. Remember I mentioned built-in export or inbuilt export department, then separate export department, and lastly, export subsidiary. Export subsidiary. Although building type of organization may be adequate in the early stage of direct export market development, if sales continue to increase, the wise thing to do is to continue to increase. A point will be reached where more fully integrated organization is needed. One way to meet this need is to set up a separate export department. A separate export department. So what would the separate export department be doing? The separate export department, in contrast to the built-in type, the separate export department is a self-contained and largely self-sufficient unit in which most of the export activity are handled within the department itself, making it a relatively complete export marketing department. A relatively complete export marketing department. The separate export department may be structured internally upon the basis of function, geography, region, product, depending on the objective organization and what the organization is trying to achieve. But basically what happens is this. You know, in built-in export departments, like you have one office within the same building where you have a sales and export sales manager. That export sales manager will depend on let's imagine this scenario. You have the production unit, you have the marketing unit, you have the sales unit, you have the logistic unit, you have the account and finance unit. The export manager is the sales manager in this respect, but it will depend on the marketing unit to do his marketing. He will depend on the logistic unit. Remember, this company is started as a local company, selling locally. So all these units I mentioned are performing their function on the local scene. All these units I mentioned are performing their function on the local scene. But now, they will now need to take on additional responsibility of doing marketing abroad. They will have to take up additional responsibility of doing logistics abroad, documentation abroad, doing other things they will, even advertisement abroad, other things they will naturally not have done for foreign market. Because whenever they want to do delivery, they ship to a location within the country. Whenever they are doing marketing, they work with marketing agents within the country. Everything they are doing is local. But this time around, they begin to look outside. Because it's built in. Now, when it is a department, that department is semi-autonomous. Semi-autonomous in the sense that this export department can even be in a different location, in a different building, in a different geographic location. And this export department have its own marketing unit, have its own sales unit, have its own logistic unit, have its own delivery unit, have everything almost independent. The only thing it probably does with the major the organization is maybe getting the product from them and maybe funding. But it might even have its own director, and then not director now, maybe a general manager, or it can be a director, not managing director, but export director that is report to the managing director or chief executive officer. So as it is, it's a separate unit, almost independent. That means every internal services that is often shared with other units will now be done by himself, by his own staff, for his own activity to achieve his own objective. And that's why when the business is growing, this is the option to explore. When the business is growing. At the beginning of the commencement of the business of export, because the volume is low, because the market potential probably has not been fully explored, because you're trying to also conserve, reduce cost, you might need to just work with individual. You might need to just work with individual staff who is just going to handle this on a low level, incurring lower cost. But as the business grows and as this sector or segment or unit of the business grows and the volume is increasing and the demand is increasing, it's just more effective and efficient to consider setting up a whole unit to handle this. Now let's go back to objective of our conversation. You are trying to assess Nigerian market from your country under the AFCFTA. You started with built-in. You now move on from built-in to eventually begin to explore more opportunity by having a department in your organization. Remember, Nigeria is over 200 million people. And if your product is an essential product, you have a very huge market. If it's not an essential product, you still have a market depending on who you are targeting. Are you targeting the middle class or the lower class or the upper class? But whatever the case is, you still have, middle class of Nigeria is more than the size of some companies. So basically saying that for a business to be able to grow effectively, as the business, to be able to sustain the growth, as the business is growing, the business also must be strategic. Must be strategic in the sense that as the demand of the business require additional services, as the demand of the business require additional staff, all that is still put into play as the business grow. And like I said, if you have a good product, you're coming to the Nigerian market, I assure you, you might need to get to that point. You might need to get to that point where you have to deal with the issue of setting up a department. But the beauty is you can always have the inbuilt and reduce your cost at the beginning and then find a way to grow afterwards. I'm basically saying these are options available for you as a business. As a business. So the separate export department may be structured internally upon the basis of function, geographic region, product, customer, or some type of combination, depending largely upon how the export marketing task varies the most. So when you're setting up the export department, it might be based on function. Okay, they will be carrying out the exporting function for the company for all the department, or might be based on region. You will handle this region, you will handle that region. It might be based on function, it might be based on region, it might be based on product. You know, for some company, they have export departments set up for different products. So that means those that will handle product A are different that will handle product B, different that will handle product C, because they have a large volume, large demand for each of the products, and they have different people set up for different products because of the amount of product that they need to sell per time. Because of the amount of product that they need to sell per time in the export market. And so at the end of the day, we might have to come to a situation whereby you are setting up a department based on the volume of demand. Based on the volume of demand that you are seeing or experiencing in that business. So product, then the type of customer. Sorry, I'm trying to, I'm having a lot of issue with lighting here. Type of customer and the like. Then the next one is export sales subsidiary. Export sales subsidiary. Export sales subsidiary. So inbuilt, number one, from inbuilt export department to, from inbuilt export unit to separate export department and to export subsidiary. Export sales subsidiary. In attempting to divorce completely export marketing activity from domestic operation, some companies have established an export sales subsidiary as a separate corporation. Although an export sales subsidiary is wholly owned and controlled by the parent company, it is essentially a quasi-dependent firm. It is only owned by the company and controlled by the company, but it's independent. He has his own MD, but it's part of the group. All authority and responsibility attached to export operation, including profit, responsibility, may be assigned to one subunit of the parent manufacturing firm. Thus, with this type of export organization, a manufacturer may be better able to ascertain the profitability of his foreign business. Now, because it is separate, you will be able to ascertain the profitability of this business. Because it is separate. You'll be able to appreciate the profitability. In fact, it might also be exonerated from some taxes. It might be exonerated from some taxes depending on the law of the country. In addition, the chance of conflicting pressure arising from domestic department is minimized. Because it is independent, conflicting pressure also is minimized. In terms of internal organization and specific activities performed, the sales subsidiary differ very little from separate export department. There is, however, one major difference that can cause top management concern. In terms of specific activity performed, sales subsidiary differ very little from separate export department. The major difference between them is sales subsidiary is autonomous. It's only a part of a group. So it's like you have business ABC, so I have company ABC producing, company XYZ. So in export department, separate export department, it doesn't have to be a registered company. It can be a department that have all that it needs, but it doesn't need a registered company. But in subsidiary, it's registered as a separate entity, but the same group, and have its own MD. But the same group, and have its own MD. Being a separate corporation, the export sales subsidiary, being a separate corporation, the export subsidiary must purchase from the parent manufacturer the product that is sold in overseas market. And that's the issue. Because it's separate and autonomous, it might want to, in the bid to be profitable, it might want to begin to sell other products. It might want to begin to sell other products not manufactured by the parent company. And that's where the parent company might have concern. This means that the manufacturer must develop a system of internal transfer pricing, which some people use for money laundering. Internal transfer pricing. Although export subsidiary is in many respects similar to export department, there are important reasons for its existence. Number one, unified control. All authority relative to exporting is centered in one organization, not subject to conflicting pressure from various domestic departments. When you are inbuilt or export department, you still have to depend. You still have to depend. So let me see it this way. Inbuilt, 100% dependent on the other units in the organization. Separate export department, like 20-30% dependent on other units in the organization. Subsidiary, not dependent on any unit. Only buy from them and sell. So it's like a merchant. It's like a merchant. Unified control, cost and profit control. Since all revenues and expenses are separated from domestic organization, export and profit can be readily seen. Allocation of orders in multiple plant enterprise. The subsidiary company can place an order with the most suitable plant more readily and can supervise traffic management responsibility more effectively. So when you have different plants, the subsidiary can place order from any of the plant he feels is giving him what he wants on time in terms of delivery, in terms of efficiency. So it's not bound to go and buy from a particular subsidiary because it's independent. It's reporting to the group. It's registered as a separate entity reporting to the group and it's independent. Ease of financing. Since the subsidiary is a separate corporation, it is easier to ascertain its financial position. And as a result, it can easily raise its own finance. As a result, it can easily raise its own finance. So, he has a chance for growing. As a result, financial institutions may be willing to advance funds for the export business. More complete line of product. Being a separate company, it can purchase product from outside source to offer overseas buyer a more competing line. So, if he has other products that can complement the company product, that can aid his sales, like I do beans flour, someone is doing pap, or we sell a lot of pap, and someone is doing beans flour, I can add that beans flour, just complement, just to show up and increase and support and enhance my sale, and of course bring in some more profit. What the parent company will frown at is if they begin to sell other products who are competing or giving more attention to other products of other company, whereas they are primarily set up to sell the product of the parent company. Tax advantages. Corporate income tax law in some countries may result in some savings in corporate taxes. The subsidiary company can serve a variety of useful purposes, most often corporate in character and comparatively unrelated in the practice of exporting. Most of them corporate in character and comparatively unrelated in practice of exporting. I'm basically saying that a sales subsidiary have a lot of advantages more than separate export department, more than built-in. But you know what? All these are dependent on how much the business is growing. For a starter, you need inbuilt export department. For growing company, you need separate export department. For established corporate, you need sales subsidiary. All these will be dependent on the vision of the people in charge of the organization, the management will, the vision they have, the desire for growth, and all they plan to do. We determine if they are going to be able to do all this at the end of the day. The reason I'm saying all this is because if the objective of the organization at the outset is just to set up a channel for sale, not because there is a great vision towards internationalization and exporting, then it might become difficult for them to really do most of the things we have proposed. Remember, we are discussing AFCFTA, the what, the why, the how to export to Nigeria, and we are saying, if you are looking to explore Nigeria market, we are strongly recommending that, and you are just starting out in export, do the inbuilt, move on to separate export department, and eventually can have the subsidiary. Thank you very much for listening again this morning. And my name is Dela Yimi, this Import Export Platform, Facebook Live from Trinity Academy. See you tomorrow. Sorry, see you in the evening rather. As I move on to, I think what I have next is sales branch. Sales branch. Let me confirm that. Foreign sales branch. Yeah, foreign sales branch. And I'll be talking about a lot of the activity of the foreign sales branch. And I'll probably talk about that till tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening. Bye for now.